Welcome back to the Eye of Jupiter live every Friday at 6:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Today we have on Mr. Chester Smith. If you guys don't remember, Chester episode dropped this week. It is called Nightmare Bigfoot Encounter in a Holler of West Virginia. That came out on this Tuesday. A fantastic episode, an incredible encounter. The scariest encounter that I've ever heard personally, and how aggressive they can be if you're doing the wrong things, possibly. So if you find yourself coming back to the Eye of Jupiter, or if it's your first time here, please do me a favor. Consider liking and subscribing to the channel, hit that bell notification, and go ahead and share it with all your friends. If you want to listen to me in MP3s, you can go ahead and do that as well over on Spotify. Leave me a rating. Go ahead and share that out to all your friends as well. And if you'd like to get in contact with me and talk to me about anything you'd like to talk to me about, this is the place to do that. And you can do that by contacting me through the email, the Eye of Jupiter podcast at gmail.com. That's one more time, the Eye of Jupiter podcast at gmail.com. So with all that out of the way, let's welcome to the show, to the live show, a big warm welcome for Chester Smith.
Hey everybody, I'm back.
Yeah, it was only 4 days later, but so how's it going? How's it been?
It's been pretty good. I mean, it's been a little chilly here, and deer season is kicking off. Had some neighbors move in down the road several months ago, and they've got a 19-year-old kid. Well, I used to teach archery classes, traditional and compound. Well, if I'm handicapped, I can't do it anymore. I can't even string my 50-pound recurve anymore. So what I'm doing is passing that stuff on to him and passing on the knowledge and teaching him how to shoot a compound bow and how to hunt. And eventually I'd like to get the compound bow I'm giving him tuned back up to 80 pounds because I got to drop down to 50. Because at 80 pounds, I mean, my compound bow, you can hit an apple at 100 yards with this thing. It's insanely accurate. But his parents are like, his parents are city people, and they don't know anything about hunting and archery. So I'm teaching him, and then he can pass it up to his parents.
Oh, that's cool, man. There's always something you can do to help out in your community. It could be something as simple as teaching someone how to use a bow, how to do the, clean it, check the cams, make sure nothing's out of whack, and, your silencers and your counterbalances and your quivers and all the things that go into those.
Waxing strings, making your own bowstrings. I mean, I know how to do all that. I've got all kinds of bowstring material.
Isn't that called a kisser button? The thing that you put in the corner of your mouth?
Yeah, a kisser button up above your D-loop that you could pull back to the corner of your mouth.
Right.
And you line up your sights. But with my modified release, I keep my index finger behind the trigger. I come back and put my thumb in the corner of my mouth and say use the kisser button. And that lines me up perfect. And I shoot bows left-handed.
Even though you're right-handed?
Yeah, even though I'm right-handed, I'm left eye dominant, and I can't see that good distance with this eye. So I use a single pin Apex sight. There's several $100s, and it's got a 2x magnifying glass in it. So, I mean, it is out there.
I mean, last time I shot bows was back in the 90s, so I'm sure a lot of things are different than they used to be.
Yeah, that's when I started shooting bows. Was actually in the 80s. I was shooting bows, but it was like bows that we made and arrows that we made, and we'd take like the pop top soda tops and fold them over on the end of the arrow shaft, and that was our broadheads. We'd sharpen it on a rock and shoot them.
All right. So here's your channel. Is this correct? Hillbilly Holler Hillbilly Holler. Is that your channel?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
it is.
Cool.
It was about, home repairs, fixes, working on small engines, troubleshooting engines, but I'm just not capable of doing that anymore. So I just let the channel go, but I leave it up. And then when somebody asks a question, I'll answer them.
Well, there's other ways we can skin that cat, man. If you need help, you can talk to me about it. You have the ability to talk to people. So maybe that's something else that you can consider doing. Do what I do. We'll get you out there.
Something you might be interested in on my channel. I took some angle iron and some weights and my welder, and I made a homemade driveway grader that you put behind your lawnmower, and you just drive up and down your driveway, and it grades it and smooths it without any special equipment.
Oh, you mean like pea gravel or something like that? Like pea gravel or R6 or something like that?
Pea gravel, whatever.
Okay.
But my driveway used to be you gravel it, and then after you run over it for like 6 months, all the gravel smashed down, and then you got ruts. And I would go back over it, pull that gravel back up, and re-level it and fill in the ruts with it in like 30, 45 minutes.
Well, yeah, because after a while, when you get those dips going, then they get worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And I know all about that here, buddy. Oh, trust me. I mean, yeah, it's Mud City here. So, so you came on last week. This week actually, your episode dropped on Tuesday. Go and check that out, guys. After this, and you said that you wanted to go chronologically after that. We talked in the green room for a moment.
Yeah, I'm going to go in chronological order.
I kind of wanted to go into it. So go ahead and what happened. Sure.
I've had.
Go ahead and begin, my friend. Let's go ahead and get into it so people can see.
Periodically, I've had periodically had different experiences over my lifetime, and now I'm basically just a Bigfoot researcher. I go out in the field as much as I can with my wheelchair. But I've had strange things happen my whole life, but not like all together. And I think what it is after you have your first encounter, you become hyper aware and you tend to notice a lot more things that people will overlook. Like 9/11, when 9/11 happened, it was like that Halloween night after 9/11, I had taken a bunch of kids trick-or-treating. And we were on our way home. It was like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was kind of dozing off. And we're going down this little 2-lane road. It was Highway 5 in Hartville, Missouri. And we were just coming down the hill coming into town. And all of a sudden, I'm not joking, this was a missile or a rocket. And it was low flying. It had a blue flame. I had my window down. It's like going from like Fort Wood towards Springfield, Missouri, that direction. So it was going from east to west. And of course, there was no reports on the news about that at all. I mean, nothing on the news. And they weren't even talking about like bombings or anything, but I know what I saw. And I mean, I wasn't half asleep or anything, but it was so loud that the people were dozing off in the car. I mean, they jumped up. They were like, "What was that?" And I'm like, "I just saw a rocket." And I mean, this thing was pretty big. It was nuts. But, like I said, there was a whole lot of cover up over the 9/11 thing.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started, bro. Don't even get me started. I was in the military. I was in the military during that time, and we were out in Fort Irwin, California, and they woke us up because we were on the West Coast there, and they were like, if you have anybody back east, give them a call. And, of course, I'm from Baltimore, so, then Pentagon happened also, and I was like, you guys okay? But that was a weird time, and that was like that was like my beginning of what the hell is going on. Because there's so much more that we don't know about. I mean, we can do probably you and I a whole podcast just about those kind of things. And then the Vegas situation, and then Mr. COVID, that whole bullshit. What's going on now is another version of it. Let me get this straight. You in California, you said you have to wear a mask, and now you say take them off. Which one is it, fellas? It's insane, man. The world is crazy.
It is crazy. There's a lot of things going on, and the more you look into it, the more you realize how much everything is like trying to put the blinders on you. For example, I mean, I've said this many times, there are tens and tens and tens of thousands of Bigfoot reports,
right?
And let's say 1% is true. We still have that 1% that actually happened. You can't say that 100,000 people are all lying. That is just ridiculous. To say everybody had an encounter or talks about it, they're lying. No, that is just absolutely impossible. And when people come out and do interviews like I am, the only thing I have to gain from doing this, I mean, I'm not going to get rich. I'm not going to make a penny off of this. The only thing I can't stand to gain is ridicule. So why would I want to talk about something that people are going to laugh at me about? It makes no sense whatsoever. And it gives more credibility to the people that do interviews, like Daryl Denton, my buddy Billy Howell.
Billy Howell?
Yeah, he's my best friend.
I was trying to get Billy Howell on years ago. He's like, yeah, okay, sure, we'll do that. It just never happened. I would love to talk to Billy. Maybe you can put in a word in for me.
I'll link you up. No problem.
I would love to have Billy Howell. He's also good friends with Daryl. That's when they went out and seen that dog man. Remember? That was with Billy Howell. No. the orb that came across the ground that turned into a possum when Billy shined a light on it and it hissed at Daryl and they both got sick. That was him, right?
That's the same Billy Howe.
Okay, yeah, book me up.
Last time we went out to we had Barton Unley, Daryl Denton, Billy Howell, Martin Groves, myself, and several others were out there, and we spent the weekend at LDL. And Billy was actually in the tent with me when I had a bear that was, our fire pit was 5 feet from the flap of the tent. There was a mama bear and her cub that come walking around, sniffing the fire pit and everything, and snapping her jaw shut, letting me know I was there. She was there. Billy's asleep, and I'm sitting here with my 45, like, please don't come in here. Please don't come in here.
Yeah. I mean, bears are scary enough, but if you're running into what you ran into back in West Virginia in your childhood there, that's a whole completely. How did that affect you, man? What did that do to you?
Oh gosh. If I think about it when I'm out in the woods, I'm done. I'm out. Unless I've got somebody else with me to help me watch my back. But if I'm out in the woods and I think about it, it's like, I'm done. I can't do this, or I get out there and I'll sit in a deer blind because I ground hunt from a deer blind.
Right.
And I'm sitting out there and I hear a stick break and it'll make me think of that. And I get scared and I can't control it. It's like PTSD, sometimes it affects me, sometimes it don't. But anyway, to get back into the meat of it all.
Sure.
I was living in Missouri, like I said. Actually, I lived in Grove Spring, Missouri. And we were heading home when that rocket went through. Well, come that Christmas, I had just got off work and it was getting into December. And there I always would go out in the woods and harvest my own Christmas tree. It's kind of my tradition. I use a different thing every time. Sometimes I'd use a hatchet or an axe or a bow saw. It was always something different. It was like a little game I played with it to see what kind of things I could figure out to do, cut a tree down with, because I didn't want to start up a chainsaw, obviously, make all kinds of racket just for one cut. But anyway, I got off work late one evening and my ex was like, we need to go get the tree. I'm like, we've got a couple of weeks. I'm tired. I just got off work. But she kept fussing, wanting me to go get a tree. I'm like, okay, let's go. I said, I got out my mag light and I turned it on. It was dim. I could tell the batteries are starting to go bad. Right. And I'm like, my flashlight's kissed her. She goes, it'll be fine. Let's go. So I grabbed my 38 pistol and like a tomahawk. I was going to cut it down with the tomahawk that year. So we go out in the woods, like a couple 100 yards to this spruce tree that we had previously picked out for the Christmas tree. And when I get up to this spruce tree, I get it cut down. I get it cut to length. And I start dragging it back out of the woods. And then I hear this noise. And it sounds, the only way I can describe this sound is, the frilled lizard on the first Jurassic Park that spits acid?
Yes.
It kind of sounded like that. It was twittering and high pitched, but not exactly like that. I'm like, what is that? I have never heard anything like that in the woods. And it was behind us. So I turned around and my flashlight, mag light, it wouldn't shine but maybe 25, 30 feet. And all I could see were eyes. And they were like 5.5, 6 feet up in the air. And this thing was bobbing its head and weaving like a lizard would or a chicken. And I'm like, deer don't make that kind of noise, and we don't have anything else weird like that around here. I said, and then I just started thinking, Bigfoot? No. The ones I messed with years ago when I was a kid, they sounded nothing like that. They didn't make that noise. And we're sitting there watching it. Well, I reach over and I pull my 38 out of my holster, and when I did, this thing was standing underneath the tree. And it shot straight up that tree.
Oh my God.
Straight to the top of it. And then it cleared the top of this tree. It did. It went straight up, cleared the tree. It was free air, but I didn't hear wings. I'm like, it's not a bird.
Were the eyes red by any chance? What color were the eyes?
They were like a orangish color, not quite red. Yeah, they were like an orange colored eye.
I mean,
which I thought was
to me,
most animals don't have orange. They don't reflect back orange.
Right. I just had one of the curators from the Mothman Museum I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but I've learned so much about that, and that sounds eerily similar to what I was listening to. It's that is scary as shit, dude.
Well, this thing, when it went up the tree, it went up and it went over our heads. Me and my ex both heard like the whoosh of air, but it wasn't wings. They'd sound totally different. But it went about 25, 30 yards behind us and landed in the top of the tree and came down that tree to the ground and bumped that ground when it hit it. And I'm like, this tree can wait until morning.
Yeah.
But we had to circle around through the woods and we could hear it moving off in the distance through the leaves. It was breaking, snapping twigs on the ground and rustling leaves. We got back to the house, but here's the scary part. About the time that thing hit the ground on the other side of us, I mean, we're talking 25 yards, 40 feet up in a tree, and it goes up, comes over 25 yards, and then lands in a tree about 30 yards behind us. I mean, that is a heck of a distance right there.
Right.
But anyway, about the time it hit the ground is when my mag light died. And I'm like, just stay behind me. And I kept my 40 or that little, it was a 38 short. It wasn't even a full 38. I mean, it was a weak 38. But she's behind me freaking out. And I'm like, just be quiet, be quiet. And she goes, I'm going to run. I said, don't run. Don't run. If you run, you are food. Don't run. It makes you prey and it'll trigger an attack response or a predatory response.
Right.
We got back to the house. And the next day, we went back in there, and I took something a little more substantial than a 38 short. But we got that tree back out of those woods. And I hunted those woods for probably 13 years and never saw it again. I mean, never saw it after that.
If you had to make a guesstimation, what do you think it was? If you had to make an assumption,
I've thought on it off and on over the years, and the closest thing I can think of it could have been was a rake.
Okay.
I mean, I've had several people tell me it was probably a rake, but I mean, I don't research rakes or anything like that. I don't really look into those too much, other than, I'll watch an interview, somebody talking about an encounter with them. But I didn't actually physically see it, but I saw its eyes and I saw its physical capabilities, and it's not something I wanted to play with.
Yeah, but normally, like when I hear about rakes, I always hear them kind of like crawling on the ground. They're kind of gaunt and they got the long fingers and stuff like that. But I've never heard them jumping up a tree. I have heard of somebody else saying something that jumped up a tree. He said he didn't know what it was. It kind of just, he'd seen it. It went across like this little pathway, and he's seen it, and then it shot up a tree. He said, I don't know what the hell that was, but yeah, that's insane, dude. That's insane.
But I've had people suggest it could have been a rake, because even though they like move slow or on all fours on the ground or whatever, it doesn't mean they don't have the capability to stand up. And anything that lives in the woods is just in insane shape. I mean,
True.
You want to fight on your hands, you dive on a 125-pound doe. I mean, in my 20s, we were being stupid, out drinking, sitting, in the back of the truck, running the back roads, looking for possums or whatever. And there was a doe that started running beside the truck. Now, the other guy in the back of the truck with me was like 325 pounds. He was a big barrel-chested guy. And he also rode horses, and he had a rope in the back of the truck with him. He lassoed that doe, and she snatched him out of that truck and drug him down the road. He had to let go of the rope. I mean, they are powerful.
Yeah, even like something as like minute as like even a squirrel or a freaking chipmunk or something. They're out there. They're in so much better shape than we are, and we have no idea. We live such cushy lives.
A squirrel will mess you up. The other thing that I had experienced in Missouri is I lived in a mobile home park for a while. I did the maintenance there until we moved to Grove Spring. But I was living in Hartville at the time, or Hartsville. And this guy named David, he owned Blackhawk Forge, and he was renting out one of the barns in one of the mobile homes, blacksmith and all that. Well, he had a horse, but he didn't have a trailer. Well, the guy I was working for had several pickups and cattle trailers and stuff like that. Well, David wanted to go get his horse. And I'm like, all right, I'll drive you, because he didn't have a driver's license. You know. Anyway, my boss asked me to go out there and get it. He said, make sure he pays for gas, make sure he puts gas in the truck. We leave and we go out, and we go up north of Marshfield, Missouri, and turn on this side road. And he kept saying, oh no, we'll get gas later. We'll get gas later. I didn't know how much gas was in the truck because gas station didn't work. Next thing you know, we run out of gas on the side of the road. And of course, this is pre-cell phone. So we just got to sit here and wait for somebody and flag them down and hope they have a gas can. So we're sitting there waiting, and I'm sitting in the driver's seat. Back then, I used to smoke cigarettes. I was smoking a cigarette. I look over in the field, and I got out of the truck, and I'm like, David, get over here. I said, what is that? Well, it was hovering about 500 feet in the air over this field, and it was shaped like a cigar, and you could see the profile of it. It was gray or silver. It wasn't really reflective, but it was just sitting there hovering. And I'm like, what is that? And he had no idea. But we sit there and watched it for a minute. And then this thing rotates up like this and shot straight up in the sky like that, and went up to a mile and then come to a dead stop. I'm like, okay, we don't have anything that moves like that. And then it rotated like this, and then nose down and shot back down to like that 500 feet level on the field. And then it rotated back flat. And, we could not figure out what the heck it was. I mean, this was also quite a ways away. So, it looked small, but we could tell it was fairly substantial. And it hovered there for about a minute, and then all of a sudden it took off. It was gone. Just in an instant, out of sight. And I've never seen anything maneuver like that before or since. But like I said, whenever you start experiencing these things, you become hyper aware, and you very rarely will miss something out of the ordinary. There's something out of the ordinary, you'll catch it out of the corner of your eye. And it's like,
but even being that there might be somehow people say this is all kind of connected. I don't have as much experience as you or others, but not only are you hyper aware, but I think they're hyper aware of you.
Oh yeah.
Like when you kind of go through that initiation, if you will, what happened to you back when you were a kid in the holler there, that could be just like, like one sees it and they all see it. Like it's a whole different frequency. And now you've kind of stepped over that line, and now it's like you are now open to everything. You know what I mean? It's just such a weird thing that people talk about.
Like the whole portal thing, I've never experienced it. But I won't call somebody a liar about portals and cloaking and things like that. I can give them my opinion of what it could be, but I've never experienced it. And I'm not about to call somebody a liar, because then it's like, I'm a liar. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just not a good thing and I've seen this in the communities too, where you'll have one researcher saying one thing and one saying another and disagreeing, and then they start calling each other liars. And it's like, that's not good. If you can agree, or just say, hey, I've never experienced it, so I don't know anything about that,
It's so difficult.
That's the best way that a lot of these researchers and groups need to handle that kind of thing. Instead of arguing back and forth on what it is and what it can do. And who knows? We got fish that can change colors, we got lizards that can go up in a tree and camouflage in and disappear. Animals are amazing things, and they have amazing abilities, and you can't say that these things don't have that kind of ability either. I never experienced that kind of thing.
If you think about even anything like human history, you can talk about the conquest of Genghis Khan. Like that is written by one person, and someone have a different thing, but somehow you don't know that side, because they don't have the connections to the, whatever, the museums or the universities of the day. So a lot of information is put to the side, and it becomes like this ego thing. Like, well, I've seen it this way, therefore it is that way. But it's always been that way. And you can even see it within our country now, that whole concept and idea where people just simply won't talk to one another. We just won't do it. I remember when we were kids, we could have a difference of opinion, but we didn't talk about it. We were just cool. We were just like, who gives a shit, man? Let's watch the game and let's have a beer. Let's talk some shit. Let's jump in the pool. Let's play some horseshoes. What the hell's the problem? But now people just want to pick a side instead of being on the side of, I don't know, America. Is that weird? Is that
Right.
such a weird thing? So
Yeah.
why can't we be on the side when it comes to cryptids and weirdness and paranormal and high strangeness? Why can't we be on the side of like, I don't know, this is what I've experienced. Hey, let's meet up, let's team up, let's see where you went. What were you doing? Oh, that's interesting. I was doing something similar. Oh, it was this time of year. Wow, here's some track. Okay, and like let's work it out. But no, we have to. We're just these these bipedal monkeys sometimes that just pound each other on top of the head. It just drives me crazy.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know. I mean, I try to be a very, very respectful person, and I will listen to what anybody has to say about it, but unless I personally see it, I don't know in my head that it's fact. I can't get my head wrapped around some of this, is what I'm saying. It's not that I don't think they're wrong. It's a really hard subject to get your head wrapped around, even if you've had experiences starting as young as I did. It's still, to this day, it's like, did that really happen? It had to have happened. I know it happened. But
Right.
I try to convince myself at times that it happened, because it's so hard to get your head wrapped around this thing when
it's like
live a normal life, and then oh no, there's another Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's like bacon and eggs, breakfast, school, hi mom, hi dad, coloring books, Mr. Ed and Nick at Night, and then Bigfoot, and you're like, where do I put that in with all this other shit?
It's hard to find a slot in your head for something like that when you're also leading just a normal life and you're not out there like researching it every weekend. You go out to a place a couple times a year, and it just doesn't fit in the slot of norm. But
exactly, James. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and fire away. James Hood writes, when dealing with the paranormal, anything is possible. I agree with you 100%, buddy. Yeah. Mississippi man, my buddy James Hood. Oh yeah, it's just like I said, any questions, go ahead and fire them away at Chester about his experiences. So we went from whatever you found in the woods trying to cut down that tree to this cigar, this strange cigar. We've heard of this multiple times now. It's like every other day there's something in the sky that people are seeing now. That's so strange.
Well, you got more people in population than you did back then, so you got more eyes out there looking, and now these kind of subjects are not as quite as taboo as they were 20, 25, 30 years ago. It's only been in the last 8 years that you got a lot of people talking about it and everything. And, that's one good thing about the internet. It's maybe in the last 8 years, it's become more acceptable. Like the kid that moved in down the road, the one I'm teaching archery, they had a bunch of Amish out there and they were doing a barn raising. Well, I drive a red Hummer, and he's just fascinated with it because I got big 35-inch mud tires on it. He loves that Hummer of mine. So he was up by the road and he flagged me down, and I stopped and we sat there and talked for a little bit. And he's like, just out of the blue, he says, so I have a question. And I'm like, okay. He said, are there Bigfoot out here? I'm like, yes. A 19-year-old kid just fires off. I'm like, what do you got going on? He said, well, I've been exploring the whole side mountains all over. 19-year-old kid, he's got all the energy in the world. He runs up and down the mountains all the time. Well, he told me that they've been hearing stick breaks and whoops and hollers, and they've been hearing the wood knocks at night. And I'm like, yeah, you'll get that out here. And I said, if you really want to hear it, these dogs out here don't bark. But on the nights these dogs are barking, just go outside, sit on your porch in a chair and listen, and you'll hear it. And then the dogs will start barking. And then you'll hear it again, and it'll go on all night. I said,
that makes me wonder now, dude, because I've had times where I'm out there and the dogs won't bark wherever I am. I lived in Pennsylvania for a year myself. Just also, and you won't hear anything. Just a train rolling by once in a while, whatever. And then there's nights where the dogs just go off.
Yeah.
And now that makes me wonder, because I hear them go off here too in Mexico, but they do just like to bark at anything. But at the same time, there's stuff that runs around in these streets too.
Right. Absolutely. They're all.
I mean, I'm gonna start looking now.
Yeah. But but you'll hear it real faint, like right before, and then the dogs just start going off.
He's asking what state are your experiences in? This is Magical
Okay.
Journey podcast coming up next, guys.
I lived in quite a few states, but I've had experiences in Missouri, Kanawha City, West Virginia. I had a lot of experiences up there, but I didn't know what it was whenever I was a kid, and that's where the previous the previous podcast this week was about that. And then now that I live in Middle Tennessee, part of the time I lived in town, and then we moved more rural and bought a house, and it's been going on around here at the house.
Okay.
But see, my wife, she drove truck over the road, and I was on the phone with her one night, and she was on some back road somewhere. I don't remember, but it was a pull off. It was 2-lane road, and there was a trucker pull off, and then it got foggy on her. She pulled off there, and she called me because she was getting scared because she kept hearing noises howling out there and whooping and, sticks getting banged on and stuff like that. And I told her to put me on speaker, and I listened. I'm like, you got a Bigfoot out there around you. Just keep your windows up and stay inside the truck. And she said, like, probably 1:00 in the morning, something come up and just violently shoved her truck. And then when she looked in her mirror, she hopped up. It was nothing there. But it was on the wood side of her truck. Like something just come up, put its hand above her window on the edge of the roof, and just went, whole truck shoved violently. She thought it was going to flip over. And she's in a fully loaded 18-wheeler, but she thought this thing was going to flip it over.
Oh, shit, dude. It's yeah, Magical writes that he's in Murfreesboro, so he calls you, hey neighbor. He has a show too that comes up. He's coming up right after the show, the Magical Journey podcast. So check that out. Yeah, does your wife also experience things out where you're living too?
Yeah.
Is she also hearing it?
Yes. She's had more experiences this past summer because she retired from over the road and then went into CNA classes, and she's doing home health care part-time. Anyway, so she spends a lot more time at home. I mean, home every night. Well, she decided this year, since I had bought a bunch of seed packets when COVID hit, because I was planning, on getting a garden going. But anyway, she has actually been back in her bedroom, and she heard something outside. She heard like a rock smack a rock. Well, we've got a koi pond out there with goldfish and koi in it, a bunch of them. And she flipped on the back light and opened the door and looked outside, and she saw it run on all fours up the mountain and disappear. I mean, she said it was just gone. It was like it was hunched over in the pond after a fish, and then it just jumped and took off running up the mountain. Well, she told me about it the next morning, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I call my watcher. And she said, what do you mean you're a watcher? And I'm like, you don't look out the windows at night because sometimes it'll be looking back in. So yeah.
How did she take this information?
She had a hard time wrapping her head around that. She's like, I don't know, because some people, they see it and they just still don't believe what they just saw. And she just thought time quarters up through there. And she said it wasn't no bear. I don't know what it was. And I explained to her, and I told her about what I'd gone through in West Virginia. So I mean, I told her I know it's real. I was just hoping it wasn't going to be out here. Well, she planted her little garden out there, and she had like 6 beefsteak tomatoes because she only put out a couple of plants. She had like 20 Roma tomatoes, and they were green. They were getting ready to ripen. They were just starting to get to turn orange. She went out there the next morning to water her garden. Every one of her tomatoes was gone. It stole all of her tomatoes, and she was mad. I mean, she was livid. She goes, I catch it out there in my garden. She said, I'm getting after it with that shotgun. I mean, she wanted to shoot it. She was so mad because she had so much work in that garden. Well, we had a bunch more tomatoes start coming up, and I'm like, I don't know how to keep it out of there. I set up a trail cam facing her garden. No more tomatoes were taken. None.
That's so interesting.
Well, the kid up the road, he planted a huge garden, put a fence around it for the deer, and it got in there and stole a bunch of his tomatoes and peppers. And he said it took every one of his his watermelons, took all of them. It's just over a course of a week, all those veggies were gone. You want to talk about getting mad? He was mad.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. Like I think people need to document that. Like, where you're having like, okay, I planted this last year. Okay, it's green, and then kind of slowly do it like a vlog, and then it's gone, and then show
Yeah,
like whatever signs, if there's a bend on the fence or anything like that, and then go ahead and show like the aftermath, and then the
right.
videotape is saying now they're there again and nothing happening, because we have to document this in as many ways as possible. I think I don't know how we do it. Maybe audio recorders, because they seem to be okay with those sometimes,
Hmm.
but not the video ones.
No.
Can you speak to anything about that?
Uh, I think that, okay, from what I've experienced with my encounters, I have never really seen one in the daytime. I think they're nocturnal. And I think they are capable of seeing the light spectrum on those cameras, because those cameras have a light spectrum that it uses in order for that beam to be broken and that camera to activate. And I believe they can see that.
Right. Right. I thought it was maybe something along the lines of being electronic, like they can sense the change in the air or something. But if they can see it, that makes more sense, because that would explain the difference between a video recorder
Right.
and an audio recorder. That
And,
that's a great thought, man. Great thought.
and see, whenever I was a kid, I mean, this thing tracked my scent through all over those mountains. It would follow every path that I took. And then whenever I'd go up through there again, I'd see its tracks right on mine. And I think they have a very, very, very sensitive nose, like a bloodhound, to be able to track somebody. Because I mean, I've gone up there when it was raining, so there should have been no scent,
Right.
and come back in the rain, and that should have washed the scent away. Should have washed away by trail. But the next time I walked out there the next morning, there's its tracks with my tracks. It had to have followed my scent, because there wouldn't have been a physical trail to see. I mean, you don't make hardly any tracks in, wet leaves.
You
I
were
mean, you
also
don't really
mentioning
make any sound.
Yeah, you were also mentioning on the show, like you had a really fascinating idea. We can kind of rehash that a little bit about the 411 and people relieving themselves. Could you go
Oh
go into
yeah.
that again? That was a
Okay.
great insight from your behalf. On
Okay.
your behalf, excuse me.
Whenever I was in West Virginia and going back up in the mountains and everything, I would camp out over the weekend. I mean, I'd say I'm going to stay over at a friend's house, and I'd go up there and I'd stay back in the mountains by myself. And I didn't have a tent, so I would make primitive shelters. I was also reading the book White Fang, and it puts a lot of emphasis on how animals mark their territory. You go and you have a dog pee on a tree, he's marking that as his. If you go over there and mark that, you're marking it as yours. You just challenged him. And that's the way it is with all animals that mark their territory. Well, we pretty darn sure that Bigfoot leans at tree structures as markings, or take the tree and stuff it down in the ground, roots up. I mean, that's a marking. That's telling you this is mine. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know Bigfoot existed at that time. And what I did was I went up there and I took down some of these structures and I built myself a lean-to shelter. And I hung out there for a while, but I didn't have any food or provisions with me. So I went back home to go eat and, get my provisions so I could camp out that weekend. I went up there that weekend intending to camp out, and my lean-to was tore down. And the sticks are propped back up. I'm like, oh, I wonder what did that. And then I'm thinking maybe some hiker come up through here, or some kid come up through here, which the kids weren't allowed to go up in that area. And I mean, we're talking real remote, but I was trying to make sense of it. Well, I built my lean-to back, and I'm like, well, if it's an animal, I'm going to mark this as mine. And so I went around and I peed on several trees around where my camp was going to be. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself and snickering, I'm going to make something mad. And then
Right.
I decided I'm just going to go home and I'll come back next weekend. I went back up there the following weekend, and every tree on the top of that mountain was snapped off, like 6, 7 feet in the air. I mean, trees this big around were snapped in two and thrown. I mean, something went on a rampage on that mountaintop. It was very, very angry. But the thing is, when it got up there and realized what I had done, I was nowhere to be seen.
Right.
So it couldn't just physically attack me for the disrespect I had just showed it. And that's when it followed me out of the mountains, and it set its little trap and ambush for me and came after me. And now that I'm older, I realized if that thing wanted me dead, I could have been dead. I would have been
Right.
dead. It could have easily smashed through that house and just slaughtered us all. And by the time anybody called the cops or whatever, it had been gone, and they just said, oh, it's a bear attack. But my theory is a lot of these missing 411 cases, I've read several of them. And it's like we were hiking up this trail and this person or such and such had to use the bathroom. Well, man and the guy, I'm going to go in the woods and pee on a tree. Don't ever do that, please. You're marking territory that's not yours as yours, and you could trigger an attack like that.
Yeah.
I recommend everybody kick leaves off the ground, get it to dirt, use the bathroom there and pick it back over, because there could be a number of these missing 411 cases, somebody going out in the woods and they make it up the hiking trail, but they stopped on the way to use the bathroom. And then when they come back, it's sitting there waiting and they get snatched from the back of the line and gone. Because they keep, there's a lot of cases. Everybody's walking down through there and then they turn around and that person's gone. Well, he was just right behind me. And they never find a trace of him. But they probably don't remember that person stepping off trail and using the bathroom, or one of them stepping off trail and using the bathroom. Don't have to be the one to get snatched.
Right.
But it's like, he walked ahead and ran around the bend and got snatched. Or he was right behind me and got snatched. And a lot of those could be that.
Yeah, and them being, if you want to go through the biological aspect of it, them being an upright, humanoid with opposable thumbs that kind of look like us, but much larger and different, that smell, if they're able to do like you're saying with the, when you went up through there when it was raining, they have that bloodhound scent. They're thinking maybe, that you're challenging them, and it's also really connected closer to their DNA of sorts, possibly, maybe, who knows? We're still working on that. And it's just like to use some kind of leftist type ideology, some trigger mechanism. Make sure you don't use their wordings, guys. Use your own wordings. Some mechanism. Yes, you have to make it's a battle of language too. You have to use your own language.
And in that kind of situation, either you wouldn't even have to mark a marked tree. All you would need to do is mark a tree within its known territory, and you're asking for it. So anytime you're out in the woods, don't ever use a bathroom on a tree or any upright structure.
So a personal question, I guess I want to ask you. So what are you planning on doing with this information other than disseminating? Are you planning on actually doing something of your own to help people come forth, or to
I do all the time. See, like the neighbor kid Riggs, he's exploring up there a lot, and he's getting like little encounters, but nothing major. But he's like been up on the mountain, and when he's coming down, he had two big rocks, like they had gotten thrown and they were bounced in his direction down the mountain. Okay. But he's doing a lot of exploring, and he wants to become a researcher too. So we might, this year or next year, we might be having him in an interview too. He's having experiences with wood knocks, whoops, chickens getting stolen, his garden getting raided.
Okay. Well, if you ever felt like he could contact me as well, and that way he can, we can just kind of, because we're trying to build it sounds weird. The show, you have to put it on YouTube as entertainment. This is entertainment, guys. This isn't real, but we have to build these communities, man, because there's a lot of that, a lot of people smashing each other's kneecaps and shins, what we were talking about earlier, but that's not what I want to do. That's not what the hell I want to do. I just want to get it out there, and hopefully people find it and then feel like they're not alone, because there's still, even with the internet as far reaching as it is, there's still people who are not willing to even think about the concept or even talking to anybody else about it. And people like yourself, as many as other chills commentators, thank you for sharing. Hey, you're welcome very much. Say the times videos will drop Tuesday. Yes, no, yes, that's next weekend. Yes, that's just coming up. So I had on a lady. She has a channel, dude. Her name is I can't remember her name, but I called her Northwest Native Tracker. That's the name of her show, and she is the last of her kind to do like a rite of passage, ritual for her tribe in 1978. And she went out and met 3 different types of them, which was said by her elders that they're out there. And I actually finally, here's her channel, guys. She is awesome. Yes, I agree. Thank you. And I finally had her on, and she's going to be, I think her episode, I'm going to make sure I do not mistake and identify that. So you guys should check that out too. That is coming up. Yes, yes, it was Chester's episode. Yes, it'll be coming out next Tuesday, the 21st in the afternoon. Don't miss that one, guys. Even though you don't get to see her video face because she wasn't able to get all the bugs out. I've been trying to get her on the show like freaking 4 months, Chester. And I finally got her on. And it's one of those episodes that you guys don't want to miss. And there's a lot of things that you're talking. Yes, she is. Agreed, Pam. That what you're talking on, you can even talk to her too. You just write her. And you'll find out some things about maybe that you didn't think about. Where the things she was telling me, dude, she said one thing to me. Yours was like physically scary, like that whole where it grabbed you and ripped the back of your shirt, and then like it's looking at you through the windows in your 3-sided windowed room, and you know that all that chaos. But this thing was like tricked her, took her bow because she was out there like shooting ground birds for food. Took her bow, put it in this holler, where at the end of the creek there's like this swamp area. And what they do is they like trick you. They put it there, got her in the swamp. She found it. And when she goes to pick it up, this thing came from out behind the tree and said, well, can I help you? In English. And she said, no, and walked through the swamp. And another type was actually protecting her from this type. So there's many types. And the information yeah, dude, it's one of those shows, bro. That is just fascinating.
Well,
Chester,
the one that I've got out here, I deer hunted last year. I didn't have any luck because I'd waited too long in the season. Because once deer season gets here, this thing is coming. And it's going to get here, and then the hunting is going to be crap. So I had no luck whatsoever last year. Anyway, I had left my deer blind up there. It was pop-up rhino blind. I had it staked down really good, had my chair in it, and I'm like, I'll just get it later. You know, and I kept telling myself, I'll get it later. Well, I'll wait for my wife to come home because she can walk up there easier than I can. I don't walk very well anymore, and I don't do hills very well at all. But I was just going to have her go up there and pop it down and bring it down here. Well, this thing was messing with her garden and all that. And whenever she walked out there one night, because she heard it over, and we got a big thicket of bamboos. This stuff's like 40 feet tall. And I mean, it's thick. Well, there's a washout gully on the other side of this bamboo. And she heard that thing out there, and she goes, it better not be after my tomato plant. She grabbed a shotgun and a spotlight and went out there, and like 40, 50 feet away is where this ravine is, where she's pointing the shotgun at it. She goes, ammo's not cheap. I don't do warning shots, is what she said. And then all of a sudden, she felt this thing hit her in the chest. She didn't hear it. She felt it in her chest. It was the infrasound that people talk about, which I felt. Right. I felt it several times. And I had the screaming roar with the infrasound. And it's an eerie feeling to get that infrasound hitting you. And then all of a sudden, a voice in her head pretty much told her, you're in danger. Go back inside. But it wasn't like she was thinking. It was like a voice got pushed into her head. That you're in danger, you need to get back inside. And she just slowly backed away and went back in the house and put the shotgun beside the bed again. But she just couldn't explain it. And then I said it was almost like a radar signal hit you and you felt it, but you didn't hear it. She goes, exactly what it was. And it was like a few nights later that she heard the samurai chatter out by the pond.
No kidding.
Yeah, she's heard the samurai chatter. I've never heard it, but she's heard it. I mean, we have activity out here every deer season. Like several years ago, pre-COVID, my daughter got into an argument with her husband, loaded up the kids, and came out here and told me when she was halfway here. I'm like, really? So she came out, and of course, I haven't been around kids in years, and these kids tear everything up. I mean, they tear everything up. They climb our drawers like a ladder. Uh,
Oh God.
Most destructive kids I've ever seen, and I hate to say that about my own grandkids, but they are, and that's a reflection on how she's raising them. But anyway, for her birthday, she invited a friend down from Kentucky. I didn't know about it. My daughter says, "Oh, I'm going to go drive around for a while, blah, blah, blah." Loads of kids up, goes to the edge of Kentucky, brings her friend back down here. And I told her, I said, "I'm not doing friends overnight. I don't do overnight boyfriends." Well, it was late at night, and they had been drinking on the way back. So she wasn't going to take her back, not that night. And I just told him, I told her, I was like, "All right, you can stay here." I said, "But I'm going to warn you ahead of time. If you get up for anything in the middle of the night, don't be looking out the windows. You might see something you don't want to." Well, I laid down on
Whoa.
the couch. I laid down on the couch, and I was about half asleep, and I heard her get up, use the bathroom, and then she went to go in the kitchen to get her a glass of water. Well, behind me is where the living room, kitchen, and dining room is all one big room. And then this
Mhm.
way, where you can't see, is a big bay window. It's, got two angled sides and a flat side. It's a big bay window. And she stopped and she was staring at that window, and her mouth was dropped open. And then all of a sudden, she just started using the bathroom on my floor. She peed all over herself. It scared the hell out of her.
Oh
And
my God.
she ran in the bathroom and shut the door. Well, I got out a mop and I cleaned it up and everything. And I'm like, "Just calm down, get yourself a shower. I'll get my daughter to get you a change of clothes." And that's how it went. When she come back out, she sat down on the couch beside me and she goes, "What was that?" And I explained to her what I have going on out here during deer season every year. And she goes, "But its face was in that upper window." I'm like, "Yeah, I
Right.
expect." Well, the next morning I walked out there and she goes, "Well, that window can't be that high off the ground." I'm 6'2", and when I stepped over to that window, the window sill was like this to me, and its head was like way up there. So we're
Okay.
talking 9 feet.
Yeah.
And
Well, she won't
that
be coming
that
up
next
there that much
morning,
anymore. She won't be coming up there.
that next morning, she's like, "I'm going home." I said,
Oh yeah.
she said, "I'm out of here."
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I told
that's the
my
hard thing.
daughter, "Don't go outside after dark unless I'm with you and I'm armed." Well, anyway, she's like, "Why?" And well, that night I walked outside and I heard it up on, because behind my house, I call it extreme off road mowing. It's flat where the patio is, and it goes over and it goes up real steep. And then it has a flat stone area, like just big rock. And then
Mhm.
it's like flat there. And then it goes way up to the top of the mountain behind, on my property. But, whenever it's the flat spot, that's where the trees start. Anyway, that night I heard sticks breaking up there. And I'm like, her boyfriend was over here too. He was getting ready to go home. And I'm like, "Guys, come out here on the back patio." And
Right.
they're like, "Why?" I said, "I'm going to show you why you don't go outside after dark unless I'm armed and with you."
Mm.
And I shine the flashlight up there, and here's a set of eyes that are like 4 feet off the ground. And they're like, "What is that?" I said, "Just wait." And they're like, "Well, those eyes are like that far apart." I'm like, "Just wait." And then it stood up, and they're like, "Oh crap! Oh crap!" They were in they were in that door, and they shut the door. I had to open it to get back in the house. But they learned you don't stare out the windows at night. What are you guys tearing up? Cats.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, they're little hellions, man. So this is going to continue on. So there's going to be your hunting season's coming up. So you're saying they're going to be coming back?
Oh, it's back now. It's back now. It's
You're
just
already back.
not as active as it's not as active as it gets later on in the season. It's like the later in the hunting season gets, the more active it gets, the more it moves around out here at night and runs the deer off. But it's
Okay.
just kind of here and then leaves, for a few days, and it's here and then it leaves for a few days. And then about mid rifle season, it's like here every night. So what I've got is some solar powered sensor lights that I'm going to put out, and maybe that'll discourage it from getting and staying in my hunting area, because they don't like to trigger those UV beams. They can see them, they avoid them, but they try to avoid those. So if I put those maybe in my hunting area, it'll kind of back away a little while.
You got to tell me about that when you come back eventually, dude, because I would love to hear all the updates and that whenever. Dude, it's been a pleasure, man. Like always, buddy. You're very good. You're very good at what you do, and I really appreciate you coming forth and talking to me about this today.
Hey, you're great at doing interviews too, man. I mean, you have a way of when somebody gets back in their head and they're nervous and scared, because you gotta relive it in order to talk about it, and you don't talk about it all the time, so you get the goosebumps and you get nervous about talking about it because you're kind of reliving it, and you just have this way about you that kind of calms me down whenever I start talking about it and get nervous.
Well, thank you.
And it's not like I'm nervous about telling it. I'm nervous about reliving it in my head as I tell it.
Well, I try to make sure that to remind people of the human side. Like I try to make them feel like, okay, we're here to listen to you, and I try to be funny. I try to make people relax, and I hope that does shine through. And you say it does, so
yeah, absolutely.
For the wonderful compliment.
I start getting nervous, and then you just kind of, you'll interject when you could tell I'm getting nervous, and
I'm not even trying.
It kind of stops right there, and it kind of helps to calm the people down that are doing the interviews.
It's I guess I've picked it up through time, but it's definitely conscientious. I just want people to when you have something that's supernatural that happens to you, it's very important to remind people of the humanity that they feel they might have lost,
right.
and kind of break that up and just be like, hey, dude, some people are very serious. There's some people, you have to kind of walk them through the interview. There's some people that just want to talk and you just let them talk. And there's people like you where it's kind of 50-50, you talk a little bit, you give me a natural pause. And it's just something that you pick up through time, but
right.
You're a great interviewee as well. And could you stick around for a second? I'd like to talk to you after the show real quick, if that's possible.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, man. So, all right, guys, thanks for dropping by. We are the Eye. We are aware. Thank you, Chester, very much. And have yourself a wonderful weekend. Later. You have been watching the Eye of Jupiter podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of your favorite interviews. And remember, we are the Eye, and we are aware.